Hey, good morning, everybody. It is December the 4th.
Yeah.
Welcome to Ken's Conversation. We're rocking out a little bit.
We are rocking out. Oh, is it still coming through yours? Oh, that's weird. No, I can't stop that. Sorry, we had technical difficulties, but that's fine. We're figuring it out.
Yeah.
We're figuring it out. Joy. There we go.
Yeah.
I forgot that. Okay. I know how to fix that. Anyways, welcome to Ken's Conversation. We're getting technical. We're getting masterfully technical here. And what? Is there something else?
Oh, I was thinking we were not recording.
No. We are recording.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just whenever I press this button, it puts other displays on. So if I do this,
I gotcha.
You got it?
Okay.
Sorry, we're learning. But we're not here to talk about technical stuff. And I forgot the timer.
I'm sorry. To talk about learning. Like,
no,
we won't learn anything.
We won't learn anybody anything.
Yeah.
Today we're not going to talk about complaining about customer service or how people should drive correctly. We're not going to whine and complain, but we are going to whine and complain about.
We're not whining and complaining about underrated movies. Or we might squeeze in a TV show, or a series, I should say. But
Dad might plug in a TV.
We're going to do movies.
So here's what I'm thinking.
You said save the best for first, right?
So let's save our best for first. And I've asked Dad to have 3 underrated movies, how we think these movies should have been a hit. They should have been a thing. And when I say that, I'm thinking of movies like John Wick, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. I'm trying to think of another movie. What's that one with Liam Neeson that we both like? That he's going for his daughter.
Oh, you would do that to me.
You don't know either?
Not The Gray.
No.
I will find you.
I don't remember.
Oh, wasn't that terrible? Forgive us, people. Our brains are getting older, and I'm even older than that. Oh, come on.
Oh,
Gotta look up. Everybody else is going, it's this. Say it.
I know.
Because they know it better than we do. It's so good that we can't remember it. That's how underrated it was.
What? No, it's not underrated.
Part 1 and there was part 2.
2 and 3 were terrible. I'm going to look it up before you do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm not.
Liam Neeson. It's the one where he has to go get his daughter.
Yes, and they kidnap her, and it has to do with the trafficking. And it is the Taken. I win.
So movies like that. Taken was a pretty renowned movie, I think. 2 and 3 was not. But we're going to focus on underrated movies that should have kept going. There should have been some sort of spark to keep going at it. So, Dad, we're going to try and do at least 5 minutes each.
Okay, you're going to go first.
No, you're going to go first.
Oh, that's not fair.
Yeah, why not? Okay, fine. I will go first. My third, and the reason I'm ranking them, that you're not supposed to see that. Not until later.
Oh.
The third movie I think has been underrated, and I think it should have got more of a spotlight, was John Carter.
Oh, that's not fair.
Why? Was that one of yours?
It could be.
It can be. Do you want that?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Put that in my list.
Okay. So we can both talk about it. It's fine.
Oh, because I probably know a little bit more about that movie than you do.
You probably do. But here's the thing. I thought when I saw it, I thought it was a great movie. I thought, I don't know, it had the right comedy, like Virginia. That was great. I thought that was really well written. I can see why maybe for some reason it didn't make sense in a realistic standpoint where there's beings living on Mars, and at this point there's nothing really on Mars. Or assume that Mars. What?
That's from the movie.
Oh, that's from the movie.
Barsoom.
But I thought it had a good world alternative that could transport beings from Earth to another planet. And there was something to where there was like a new kingdom. I mean, to me, I felt like that was a little bit like Avatar in a way. A man goes to a different planet. He goes the way of environment, falls in love, and then wants to help being part of that civilization. But Disney and some of the other people just decided that it wasn't worth their time doing that kind of stuff.
So what aspects of being underrated made you think of John Carter?
Like why it was underrated or something? Mm-hmm. I think maybe some people, this is just my opinion. I'm not saying this is fact. I think people probably don't like the actor, the main character,
Taylor
Kitsch. I would guess people didn't like him. I will say he's been kind of in mediocre movies like Battleship. He was in Battleship. Oh, there's another one. He was in mediocre stuff like that, at least from what I've heard of him. For those that are huge fans of John Carter, if you know more about him and other better movies he's been in, please let me know and I'll be glad to watch it. I feel like him in general, there wasn't a whole lot of following with this guy. I don't hear him in a whole lot of other things. I think part of the story of having people on Mars, even though there's not that possibility of happening. I think for some of the critiques, it might have been some other things. I'm going to look at Rotten Tomatoes, but what do you think?
Oh, so I got my whole line on John Carter and why I like it so much and why I was surprised because I didn't know until I started to watch it and understand it. So I'm going to read some of this as a Wikipedia thing. And by the way, thanks Wikipedia. We appreciate you doing. I know you're trying to raise money because a lot of people don't give. So I'll try to do my part and maybe
donate to Wikipedia.
I was thinking about doing it just because they don't ask for very much. They only ask you for like $2.75 or something. But because it's contributed by everybody.
We're not shouting out to Wikipedia.
No, we're not. We're just saying that somebody has to pay for the hosting. So anyway, it says the plot in 1881. A person, I'm not going to name it, attends a funeral of his uncle, right? The young nephew attends a funeral of his uncle, John Carter, who's a former American Civil War Confederate Army captain who died suddenly. And I'll leave it at that. And there's this tomb and he's reading his journals and all this other stuff, right? So for me, it was kind of like, oh, okay, here's a science fiction movie and it's kind of got a twist of Star Wars-esque animals and humanoids and things, because he ends up on Mars. And then his gorgeous co-star in the movie, I think she was very attractive, and did a good job. Lynn Collins just did a really good job of bringing the whole thing to a great story, like you said. But what people don't understand is that the nephew that was played how do I say this? Not the actor that was his nephew in the beginning of the movie, but that person with the name of the nephew was a real life author in real life, Edgar Rice Burroughs. And usually if you say the name Edgar Rice Burroughs, people will immediately think of Tarzan. So Tarzan has been around and remade from TV series to movies and everything else. Mm. And a lot of it was kind of adventure-based, kind of far out, not necessarily science fiction, right? Tarzan was kind of a fictional, a person that was raised by the apes in the jungle and all this other stuff, right? And became part of the jungle.
Well,
thing. So
yeah.
so in of course, this is a kind of a. It's not really a what do you want to call it? A spoiler for John Carter. If people haven't seen the movie, if they don't make the connection, that's fine. But they should look out for it if they're going to watch the movie. Understand that here's this nephew who's reading about his uncle's
findings
and worldwide
Discovery.
searches,
Okay.
right? Because what was he trying to do? He was trying to get back to Mars, right? The whole time, all the stuff and the searches and everything that John Carter was doing was trying to return back to his princess.
Well, they left it also wide open for continuing the story, because there are some characters, specifically a character played by Mark Strong, that I always see him as the average British guy. This guy right here.
Yeah.
His character kind of left a mark on that, to where like, oh, and then when John Carter finally, when he figures out an organization, they kind of left it open.
Right.
Because he goes into a kingdom and he's kind of fixing or making things a little bit better for that kingdom, for both the Martians and the other types of Martians that are there. But they left it wide open for this organization that kind of controls everything. And is their stuff just on Mars, or is on other planets throughout the galaxy as well? And there's different ways to transport. So they left that kind of aspect a little bit open and unanswered. It's also kind of a spoiler, like there's kind of a good ending, but at the same time, like, you don't know what happens after that. Like, it's a good thing that this happened, but depending on what has transpired, it could be bad or worse than what they left it. And again, not trying to spoil anything. I just feel like there was a huge story that people missed. Like, there was this critic on here who was saying something about suffers from uneven pacing and incomprehensible plotting and characterizations. Well, I think people were too busy on like the character building and stuff, and it was just more on like maybe the background of like where they all come from, not where they all come from, like what was going on, kind of unfolding they were basically unfolding a plot, which I found it interesting. So it's like, it's a lot of unanswered stuff. I'm like, okay, we're starting to get a sense of what these guys are. But then now there's like a force behind it, but they're slowly uncovering the truth about it. So I would almost disagree with that, because I think it's a different creative approach when it comes to movies. And unfortunately, you have to have multiple movies in order to get the whole picture. And I think this John Carter was just one small part of a picture, if you catch my drift.
Right. I was reading about the box office releases. It's got just some interesting about the millions of dollars that it made in the opening weekends and all this other stuff. But it grossed nearly $300 million worldwide, but it was it lost a considerable amount of money because of the cost to create it. Disney claimed the budget was $250 million, although tax returns release revealed it was $263.7 million. So they didn't make very much profit with the returns, but it did better, it seems like, outside the United States than it did in the United States.
Yeah. So, outside the United States. Yeah. Where was it most?
First place box office outside of North America.
Is it Europe?
Let's see.
It's Europe.
Highest grossing areas after North America was China. China took in 41.5 million. Russia and CIS took in 33 million, and Mexico 12 million. but it broke some records, like an all-time opening day record in Russia for $6.5 million. This is, again, at the time it released. And then it grossed $73 million in North America, $211 million in all other countries.
So that's interesting that it was more of a hit in other countries besides Europe or America. And like a lot of these actors and actresses are pretty much European, mostly English.
Right.
So that was interesting.
I think it goes back to if people understand Edgar Rice Burroughs.
Mhm.
Edgar Rice Burroughs had a huge following of readers of his books. And it wasn't John Carter, it was Princess of Mars. But trying to find
the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to find a listing of, I didn't pull that up, Edgar Rice Burroughs. And if there's other books that people, or stories that people would recognize. Excuse me. Let's see here. The Barsoom series. So there's a whole series about Mars. Tarzan. Venus.
Yeah. Same author that did Tarzan. So if you like Tarzan, you'd like John Carter.
Yeah. Western novels. I mean, he had quite a few. And he was pretty decent novelist. It says here from 1911 to 1950. So early on, his writings were.
That was that whole Martian craze, wasn't there? Like a lot of people thinking there was Martians or something like that.
I don't know. But he's most notably known for Tarzan and the Barsoom series.
Oh.
Princess of Mars, Gods of Mars, Warlord of Mars. So there you go.
Yeah.
There's a lot of follow-ons that if they found that there would be, it would be advantageous from a profit standpoint that they would make some of these other movies. But
well, let's move on to yours.
I'm just going to pick one. It's not in particular.
No, it has to. Don't say the best one. Save the best one for last.
Oh,
save the best one for last.
Well,
go ahead and say your second one.
I don't know. It would be. Does it have to be funny or action or?
It's any underrated movie. There's no particular categories.
Well, part of this is going to probably show up on how old I am, but I know that there's better ones out there, so I just didn't really think about it enough time.
Just say it.
I'll say Blade Runner.
Mm-hmm.
Came out about the same time Star Wars came out, roughly 78, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a kind of a cult following. Not that it's an occult. It's not that. It's got that's just obviously
know what a cult
referencing to you love it or hate it. It's one of those things where it's a noir movie. It's kind of a detective movie.
Futuristic.
Yeah, it's futuristic. Actually, it's like current day. It's like 2021 or something. So if you watch it now, it's like, oh, what? Los Angeles doesn't look like this today.
Yeah.
But society there's a lot of people and it's different. So, I mean, it's one of those things where it didn't receive a lot of accolades. And part of it was it had Harrison Ford in it. So that was a big draw.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It had, Rutger Hauer.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of had a big draw there for a while as a bad guy. And so those two names, and I'm not going to remember her name, so forgive me, the girl with the dark hair, Kenny's going to pull it up. The replicant that was, roll that. Oh, too far. Go back.
Stop. They usually have it here.
There. Sean Young that played the that played the replicant, anyways, that was produced by the factory. And she was, at the time, very pretty, gorgeous. And the storyline about, that these synthetic robots, if you will, they weren't robots, but they were synthetic robots, androids, that weren't allowed to be on the planet Earth because they were being used to do all the dangerous stuff off world.
So why did you think it was underrated?
I think it was because...
Did you think it was underrated, or are people saying it was underrated? Like critics are saying it was
both.
Underrated.
I think it was that people just weren't drawn
appreciate
to it.
Yeah, at the time.
What's some of the online stuff say about it?
I'm looking. I was going to look at Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes is giving it a huge score.
So,
but this is now compared to back in the 80s.
Yeah. So, I mean, even still, it's one of the, it's kind of a sleeper movie. So if people don't know about it, it's got its
misunderstood when it first hit theaters.
Yeah, it's kind of got its weirdness. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of movies that are like that. Not one of mine. I wouldn't mention it, but I would give it like the Kill Bill movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are those kind of oddball directed movies, and particular directors have an odd way of telling their stories, and underappreciated depending on the type of movies that people like. Now, I like science fiction. I like some of the what do you call it? Post. I'm just not had enough coffee.
Describe what you're trying to say. Describe the
post-apocalyptic kind of movies, okay. Right? So,
yeah.
Not that this is just future in the Earth and what somebody perceives what Earth is going to be like.
Yeah.
Things like Soylent Green. That's where I get an old movie that where the Earth is overpopulated. There's issues with that, but it's just misunderstood. It's probably the best reference to it. It had a lot of very interesting aspects of. Think about it. It was 78. Let's just say it was 80 when it came out. So it was predicting, in the writer predicting what it was going to be like in 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's funny how a lot of movies that have been futuristic to some extent have been, some of the things have come to happen.
Yeah.
Right. The old black and white thing about going to the moon, shooting a rocket. Well, we didn't shoot a bullet to the moon and people rode in it, but we did take a rocket and we landed on the moon. Right.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether people think that we did.
I found that movie still visually acceptable.
Right.
It was like, there are maybe a few CGI stuff, but even then, like, I think you were watching the final cut of it a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And when I saw it, with everything that was going around, like, that still looks futuristic to me. Like, it doesn't look like a cheap prop that's putting into some sort of weird futuristic detail. That's like, that doesn't look futuristic at all. Very punkish looking, like post-punk, even cyberpunkish looking visual aesthetics. The acting, to me, it looked like if Harrison Ford was still a person, a young guy at that age, and this movie was released, I think it could get away with it, to some degree. So, and the following movie, was it just called Blade Runner? The prequel or the sequel? I mean,
the one with Ryan.
Ryan Gosling.
Yes. And we can't leave any spoilers on that one.
Yeah, we can't.
Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah. That one was interesting. That was kind of like a post apocalyptic. in a different way.
Farther, it was 2049. So again, Blade Runner was based time-wise in 2021. So it was 28 years later.
Yeah.
From that original future.
Definitely recommend it. You guys should watch Blade Runner first, then Blade Runner 2049. If you like Dune, for those that like Dune, you'll like Blade Runner. We saw Dune. It was incredible.
The new Dune.
The
old Dune was hard for me to tolerate.
Shall we move on?
Yes, go ahead.
You want me to go?
Yep.
Okay, Dad, you don't know anything about this movie, but you know me about martial arts. There's a movie that Keanu Reeves directed, but he was also in this movie called Man of Tai Chi. Basically, this guy basically learns Tai Chi, and he's the master of it. A lot of teachers that or at least the teacher that taught him all this stuff, he put his life into Tai Chi. He became the new man of Tai Chi. So, not to give too much details, but there's a tournament that happens that he's caught up in, and it basically has different martial arts styles fight against each other. And basically what the tournament does is they try and find out which martial art style becomes the best of that year, the best of all time at that point. What Keanu Reeves is, he's actually the villain in this one. And he ends up being part of, I think, karate, which is funny because that's mostly what he knows. So it's kind of basically a good old fashioned martial arts, Bruce Lee-ish kind of thing where this guy goes to different environments, kind of like Bruce Lee going to different steps on that tower when he was fighting different people.
Right. This
is kind of the same aspect. And
I've never seen it.
It's really good. I thought it was really good. And a lot of it was in, I believe, in Chinese or Mandarin. And then there's other aspects like Keanu Reeves is just speaking in English and they're just talking into each other's languages, but they understood each other. I found it interesting. I know some people don't like a whole lot about Keanu Reeves and how serious he is, but I like his style of getting kind of real into a lot of his movies. I think a lot of these Asian movies that comes out are not very popular here in the United States because I think the populace here is more interested into something unique and different and something that's a little bit more poppy. Whereas I found the story of this very interesting. And there's not a whole lot of character building other than what these people grew up in. And then they just keep on fighting. A lot of people will not like it if you're not the type of action or interested into the actual sports and fitness impact of martial arts, then you shouldn't watch this. But I found it interesting how each style, the principles and the discipline that comes with martial arts is how they're founded.
Right.
So that's always interesting.
Was it? I'll have to watch it. Was it fairly accurate
as far as like the
martial arts and styles, or was it kind of a mixed up like you say karate? Was it true as to one of the forms of karate? Like I took Wado Ryu in college, but
see, I'm not much to my knowledge on the different styles of karate other than like Aikido and some of the other ones. I know like there was different styles of Kung Fu. But I think when Keanu Reeves was doing karate, I think he did mention some styles, but it was more like powerful hits kind of thing instead of like, I think there's certain karates it focuses more on defense. I think Keanu Reeves style was more on power strikes than anything else. And the thing about Tai Chi is kind of an interesting style because you see a lot of people like, you ever seen videos where there's like a group of people in the park and they're doing like these slow movements?
Yeah.
That's like a very slow integration into Tai Chi, where if you utilize Tai Chi to its full potential, it's like a windish, wavy style to where I feel like you're like a ribbon, more or less. Like you're just a ribbon going through all the crevices of parts and bodies to get to a certain form to take advantage of your opponent, but in a non-aggressive way, if that makes any sense. Right. Tai Chi has been a very soft style, I believe. But if you do it right, you can outwit your opponent very well. So anyways, I thought that was interesting. I think this type of martial arts, I think that the martial art movies that have been kind of a better hit, obviously, has been Bruce Lee and Ip Man. There's like several movies on Ip Man, which is about the teacher of Bruce Lee.
So you have like 2 or 3 that are kind of in that category. It sounds like, right?
Mm-hmm. So
that's how I'm going to treat my second choice.
What's your second choice?
It's 2 series, 2 different series shows. I wouldn't say TV. They probably were on TV, but maybe we didn't have cable or something at the time, so I didn't get to see them that way. But Fringe, and Orphan Black.
Okay,
so they Orphan Black was 5 years.
You're talking about that Netflix special? Wasn't that
Orphan Black is on Prime? No plugs there. That's just where it's at. It may be in other areas as well. But Tatiana Maslany, I think one of the reasons that I say it's underrated, because other than me seeing it there, I've never seen anyone ever talk about her. I've never seen anybody talk about the show. Yet she plays multiple roles in the show, putting on different personalities. And if you watch it, you can kind of see some of the other personalities come through. But whoever put this together did a really good job of like having her. She plays multiple roles, and sometimes she's
I've never heard of any of these movies she's been
in the same room in the same location as some of the other people. And I don't know, sometimes don't know how they did it, because you can't see like any delineation where they would film 2 different things and she'd be in the same room with herself. Anyway, some of that was probably just the videography that was really good. But
is she more known for TV series or movies?
Don't know. That's the thing, is I've never looked up and tried to watch anything else that she's been in. But just in general, the Orphan Black series, I think, has been
or kickoff.
Yeah, but it's kind of one of my favorite. I don't know, kind of a mystery shows to watch. I've gone through it twice.
Mm-hmm.
But over a span of about 6 years.
She's in Fringe or not in Fringe? You mentioned Fringe.
No, Fringe is a whole different series.
Okay.
And it has to do with this FBI agent. And it's kind of along the lines of, I do that every time. I got a friend out there who knows what I'm talking about. Every time I try to think of a movie and it's on the tip of my brain or my tongue, and then I can't say it.
Saying what?
When I say it's like something and I know what thing and I can see it. Agent Mulder. What's that? On TV?
Mulder?
Oh, shoot.
I don't watch the
Our
same
fans
stuff.
know what I'm talking about.
Do they?
Anyways, she's an FBI agent. They're looking into some odd things that are going on in the world. And she was experimented on as a young girl with medications that gives her special insights and things. But again, it's kind of a long running series, and the characters that are in it, Anna Torv, John Noble, particularly, Lance Reddick, some of the folks that are in there, you and Joshua Jackson, those are the 4 top
J.J. Abrams actors. Is it? I didn't know J.J. Abrams was an executive producer.
Again, yeah. So it is just one of those ones where to me, it's kind of like a novel. It's like really hard for me to put it down and stop watching the next episode. So it's got a following, I think, but it just kind of got underrated. And I haven't seen some of those actors in very many other shows,
Did they stop that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it ends. So that's the nice thing about those 2 particular series. And I know a lot of our folks out there that are listening, how frustrating it is to get involved in binge watching some particular series. And you get to the 5th or 6th year sometime, or 7th year. There was one that I was watching. It was a science fiction thing. And I got to like the 5th year and they just stopped producing it. And I didn't watch it when it was coming out, from week to week, or I would have really been crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But here I was binge watching this science fiction thing and got to the 5th year, and then it just stopped because they decided to not produce anymore. So you're left hanging with no story end. I will tell everybody, if you watch Fringe and you watch Orphan Black and you watch all the way through to the end of the years, they will come to an end and you'll be satisfied, I think, with the ending. So don't fast forward to the end. You got to watch them all the way through. It's not something where you can jump in the middle and start watching some portions of the series. But anyway, try those out. See what you think. Number 3.
Number 1 for me.
Number 1 of 3.
But what's your number 1?
Oh, you're going to ask me now?
Yeah, because I think we can, for my number 1, I think we can both agree, like, they should have done more with my number 1.
Well,
unless your number 1 is the same as my number 1.
No, my number 1 that I thought of when this morning was, again, with more thought, I could probably come up with something else. But you've actually mentioned the actor already, and but it was the way that it came out, and it's underrated. Well, it ended up not being. So I'm going to preface all this. It ended up not being underrated because it was one of the movies that ended up, when it came out, setting the stage for how people use a whole bunch of that movies and those directors' special effects.
Yeah.
Now it's almost commonplace to see some of that stuff in other movies, which makes it harder now for somebody to come up with something that's the next cool thing, right? Also, I preface it with the way in which I was introduced to the movie.
Why don't you tell me what it is?
Yeah,
because you're giving all the details before you even say that.
That's right. I'm building up.
Building up for more views and listening.
A long-time friend of ours that I hadn't heard from for a long time, when the movie came out, hadn't heard from him in a long time, called me up and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "I don't know." He says, "You want to go to a movie?" I said, "Sure." I said, "What are we going to go see?" He goes, "You'll have to wait till we get there." So when we got there, number 1 is I didn't know what I was going to see. I didn't know that it existed. I hadn't seen any previews to it, so I didn't know anything about the movie. And when I walked out of the movie, I was floored. Like, it was fantastic. Mm-hmm. And it's Matrix.
Matrix? No, it wasn't.
It was Matrix.
Was it underrated by that time?
At the time it was released,
I don't believe you.
I think it was underrated for its storyline. Forget part 2 and part 3. Just completely.
Well, keep watching it, but yes, I understand what you're saying.
What I'm saying is, because I don't think 2 and 3 did number 1 justice. They could have ended with 1 and I would have been okay. I wouldn't have had to have seen 2. It was, again, it wasn't so much the acting
that score needs to be higher
as it was the story telling of that there's this world of reality and that there's this world of that we're living in software.
Mm-hmm.
So it was one of those things that I just don't think, again, it's kind of got a cult following that
it does. It still does.
Right.
It's definitely like an emo gothic kind of vibe to it, to where I think it was more liked. Here's the way I see it. I think it was more liked not only for you, but I think it was more liked when I was in high school, specifically for those students that were emo gothic, because it was all black, it was all sunglasses, it was all dark-ish related stuff.
Right.
And I think that got a cult following afterwards, and for people to still kind of like that kind of culture.
It's funny you mentioned the sunglasses. I actually wrote to the studio
for a replica copy.
I wanted to find out where I could buy the sunglasses that Keanu Reeves was wearing in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you remember, he just kind of pinched them out of his nose, and there was no.
Was that him or was that
Morpheus? No, it was Keanu Reeves. Anyways, so
Lawrence Fishburne.
There was no earpieces. It was just the two lenses and a nose bridge. And he kind of just puts it on his nose. And I went, oh, where do you get a pair of those? That's kind of cool. So and it's funny, I got an answer back. And I got the answer from the studio said that those were made for the movie, that they were not being made in production. So
yeah, that's
somebody wants to start
Fishburne. That's not Keanu Reeves.
Well,
Look, we're looking at a picture.
Okay.
Look, see?
Yeah, I see him on
What are you talking about right there?
It's a different style.
No, it's not. It's right there. Do you not see?
So
he's just mad because I'm right.
I wrote the letter, not you. So
I think you forgot details. I think you meant to say Lawrence Fishburne.
Mm-hmm. And there's there's a fourth one coming out. So
yeah, I'm kind of excited for that. That's been a long time coming. I don't know. I'm hoping it doesn't mess up anything, but I'm getting giddy that a lot of these characters are coming back. One character in particular I want to see come back because he hasn't done anything in a while. I won't say his name, but do you know which one I'm talking about?
Lawrence Fishburne.
No. Don't say his name.
This guy?
No. Oh, close. That one.
Oh.
Don't say his name.
Well. No. But the other aspect that I walked out of that movie with was that, and actually, I've said this about two actors, two people. So, Agent Smith in Matrix was. I went, wow, he's a really good bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
He did such a good job.
Yeah. Hugo Weaving.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you his name.
Hugo Weaving.
I just know what he looks like, but he did a really good job of being a bad guy. The other one another movie that I don't want to say that it was underrated, but the actor, when I saw this movie, I went, wow, he played a really good bad guy. Was John Travolta in Broken Arrow.
Yeah.
Where he steals some missiles out of a B-1 bomber.
Mm-hmm.
I was so surprised that, after being Saturday Night Fever and a bunch of other movies and stuff that he was in, and the Talking Baby.
Talking Baby.
Yeah, he's a real pilot in real life. Talking. Terrible, showing my age.
I have no idea.
Anyways,
Talking Baby.
Yeah. It's not called Talking Baby.
But no, I'm saying he plays a character that's a talking baby.
No, he's not. He ends up being
describe your
boyfriend of the lady who has a baby.
A talking baby.
Oh, geez. Just pull up his movies.
John Travolta.
Yeah. I just put in the word talking.
I'm butchering his name, but thanks to Google. Well, he looks super young in that photo.
Anyway, so
filmography.
You had it on the right side there.
No, I'm going to his filmography. Do you know what year?
Look Who's Talking.
Look Who's Talking.
Yeah, and Look Who's Talking too. So, and it's funny because he plays a pilot in there, but he's also a pilot and has airplanes on the side life. He's had a really tough life too, losing
I don't
kids.
think I've ever heard that movie before.
Look Who's Talking.
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny.
Is it?
Yeah. And I think the voice is done by a fairly well-known comedian. But, anyways, he's doing comedy and some other stuff, and then he plays this bad guy. And I don't know, we got off on a tangent there.
Yeah, we were talking about Hugo.
Yeah.
I think Hugo's has done a really good job as far as playing very iconic characters just because of his demeanor of an actor that he has. It's just that serious tone when he's talking to you, and very omnipotent and all-knowing, very controlling kind of tone. That was my impression, but
yeah.
Mr. Anderson.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know, the way he articulates the
I know my rights. That's right, Mr. Anderson.
That's right, Mr. Anderson.
You can't talk. That's probably not correct.
I love it. No, anyway. That sounds about right. Yeah. All right. Grand finale. Last one.
Yours.
Yeah, mine.
Yeah, I'm listening.
I think you can. Well,
the Lion King.
What? Excuse me.
Go ahead.
You're such a tease. No, it's not the Lion King. Obviously, people love that movie. There's Broadway plays at $200 per ticket to go see. But anyways, no, I think the most underrated movie that had never really got appreciated, that I truly liked because it was a great sci-fi movie, I think would be a classic sci-fi movie. I think even though the original first movie didn't get a whole lot because there wasn't a whole lot of dialogue, the graphical effects, the world stories going into a microscopic world on the possibilities on how things worked inside of a machine or a box, and even the sequel that didn't come until years later, I thought that was a good representation of how things, like the trends of clothing and styles, were going to go towards what future kind of looks like. To some degree, I think they've adapted a lot of the lighting effects from it, because I've seen it all the time, almost everywhere. But Tron, I think Tron
or the original one.
So Tron, the original one, I can see where it's not a really great movie because of there wasn't a whole bunch of dialogue. There was really just people going to A to B with not a whole lot to say. But Tron Legacy,
yes,
I think people didn't give much of that as credit as it should have gotten. I think it was a great movie. I think I've seen Tron once before, but even if I hadn't seen that movie, I think I would have thought Tron Legacy would have been a great sci-fi movie. I mean, you have this plot where this kid is trying to look for his dad, and there's echoes of him hearing that, and his dad's been working on this project as a software programmer, and basically there's this machine that he stumbles upon in his old lab that transports him to a microscopic level into a computer machine, into a world that's like, well, what if circuits are highways or something compared to that? And if we program these artificial intelligence, these programs to start learning and how to do stuff, are they like people? Are they like robots? Can they have these capabilities of heart stuff? I found that interesting because it's kind of what people are already kind of doing today. They're trying to have artificial intelligence that we create to start self-realizing stuff. To what's the term that you've coined it before? Self-learning, self-awareness.
I didn't coin it.
I think you did. You coined it, or you coined it from someone else.
Just so everybody knows, I've coined that term, and all rights come to me. Send money.
Trademarked. But I found that Legacy opened up a very cool graphic CGI effects for the next few movies. Now, if you see it now, there's obvious points where like, wow, that was really scary to look at, but I think it helped settle a foundation of future, because I've seen it in Star Wars and future movies of Star Wars. I've seen it in nostalgia movies that are coming back, and they use actors that they need that need that face replacement.
Right.
So what I'm getting at is, do you remember when in Tron Legacy where Sam and his dad were talking, and his dad was like, I need to go. I'll be back. And Sam's like, can I come to the world with you?
Mm-hmm.
And his dad turns around, and I forgot the actor's name. Hey man, or what's the actor's name?
We're having a bad morning.
We
with
are.
Our memory.
Oh, we're sorry. We know people. We just don't know their names.
I'm at my second cup of coffee, and I still can't remember.
What's his name?
He was also in True Grit.
Jeff Bridges.
Yeah.
When Jeff Bridges' character turns around and they have that animated shot of him.
CGI.
I know it was CGI, but that was, for me, it was a first of many movies to like, wow, that could get away. And when it was released in movie theaters, when it was kind of that perfect pitch black background, I think that's when it worked. I think that's when it worked. But now, if you see it like in your living room or something like that, you can obviously see like, oh, I can see all the graphics and stuff like that. I got lost of track.
Like in the Fast and Furious movies, when that young actor died too, they were able to kind of CGI in and use his brother for some of the footage, which is pretty neat. You know, if somebody dies unexpectedly, they can kind of maybe finish up the filming or something like that. But
yeah. Well, so that was a good surprise for me that they were able to reanimate him back when he was younger. I thought that was cool. I thought the CGI effects in the Tron world was cool, like glass stuff, the texture, some of the transformation of vehicles, just programming aspects of it. The disc thing I still think is really cool. The suits, they've actually replicated that I would like to get. They made a real motorcycle off of the one that they found in the movie.
Right.
So there was a cult following. What I got upset the most was Disney decided sometimes Disney has great ideas, other times they just don't know what to do with it. But they came out with a series of Tron where it follows
follows what?
It follows. What do you want me to look for?
I just want to see the other cast. Keep going.
No, I'm not going to keep going. You can't make me. The what was that? I lost track.
The cat. It follows the. What follows? It follows what? You said that it follows the.
It follows the
Disney. It follows the
Disney. So, the Disney made a show,
yes.
an animated show of Tron.
Like a series.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
it basically followed. Who's Tron? Duh, I was going to say who's the hero's name? Tron. It follows Tron like after that scene where Flynn, not Sam, but the original Flinch. I forgot the character's name. Kevin Flinch, where he was trying to get out of the mainframe but couldn't and was stuck there. So this show follows after that event, and Tron is damaged. And he takes on a program to like, you're going to be the next Tron.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very outstanding storyline because, at least for kids, it was like they had like episodes where like it didn't really follow along the story. It just like, well, this new Tron had to learn about faith or something like that. Some moral aspect of what who Tron was, and right. Tron would give him like a wise thing. But it start to envelop a storyline of how Tron, like how did Tron became there's a nickname that they use in Tron Legacy, but basically when he changed and started helping Clue, like how did he turn to that point?
Right.
It was very interesting. It was getting like very dramatic towards the last of that season, and they just left it.
I think people underrated that people partly probably weren't drawn to it, or maybe didn't get it so much if they don't or didn't understand some computer lingo.
Well,
if you don't understand bits, bytes, and that terminology that's in the writing of programs, the story would kind of get lost on you a little bit.
But on the animated series, they broadcast it on a different Disney channel. You know how when we had cable, there was a Disney channel, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon. Well, Disney had that channel and then an XD channel, but you had to get that through extra bundle payments and stuff. So when they showed it to these kids, because that's or these teens, that was generally what it was made for. My thing is, I don't think any of the kids knew what Tron was or what it's all about. So I think that's part of it why they failed. It was given to an audience that had no clue what Tron was. Mm-hmm. Whereas like I wanted to see the episodes and that, and I was like really intrigued on the storyline, but they just put it in the wrong channel for the wrong audience. And I think that's why it never grabbed back up. Disney finally just flushed it. There was rumors that they were going to have another sequel to Tron Legacy to follow Sam's storyline. But then like there was rumors that a director was going to go in, and then all of a sudden they just dropped it for whatever reason. And I think it was a great movie, Tron Legacy. I think it finally picked up what Tron could have been, but for some reason they just left it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to know what Rotten Tomatoes has rated at.
That didn't have the. Oh, that was.
I'm going to also look up another Tron anime series. Tron Uprising.
Oh, never saw it.
They only had one season.
Is it on? It's on Disney Plus now.
Yeah. Well, kind of too late for it.
No, I could watch it.
You could watch it, but I'm saying they never finished it. Yeah. Tron Uprising. Tron Legacy, Rotten Tomatoes.
Go back.
Why?
Also, Olivia Wilde did a really good job.
Yeah. Good job. Yeah. So Rotten Tomatoes. I don't like this score. 51 on the tomato meter, and 63% on audience score. Boasts dazzling visuals, but its human characters and story get lost and miss its state-of-the-art production design. I disagree.
Well, again, if people didn't see the first one and didn't understand the story, like if you just went out of the blues to go see Tron Legacy, there was no story for you.
Yeah, but I feel like it just missed a mark because you're starting to see all these nostalgic movies coming out, like Ghostbusters, for example. That
you said I would cry at.
I still think that's what you heard, but you heard otherwise. Because Dad thinks I was crying when I saw Ghostbusters. There's a sad aspect to it.
This is the most recent release that's out there.
Yes.
I on the flip side, and I know we're probably about ready to wrap up here. I'm going to say this too. And maybe this is a future talk, but there are some really bad movies that had real good books, right? The reads were way better than the movie. And I'm going to finish with one that I've got to say it because I was thinking of it. I still have the book by L. Ron Hubbard called Battlefield Earth, Saga of the Year 3000. In the book, L. Ron Hubbard wrote a lot of science fiction stuff. He was into Scientology too, but he wrote a lot of good science fiction books. The book is like 1,100 pages. It's really thick. It takes a long time to read it. I had read it a couple of times, up until like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and couldn't put it down. But in the book, it kept saying, oh, look for the soundtrack. Look for the movie. Look for the movie. Well, finally, I'm talking a long time after I read the book. In the year 2000, it was an 80. The novel was written in 1982.
Mm-hmm.
In the year 2000, they put a movie out. Ironically, had John Travolta in it, and it was terrible. It was the worst depiction of the book that somebody could have produced. And it's one of those ones where I think in the hands of the right script writer,
right,
and the right director and the right production people, even if it was ended up having to be a 2-part, because it's such a long story,
mm-hmm.
it might end up having to be a 2 or 3 part type of movie situation. Could really be a fantastic movie if it was done in the guise of what's in the book. So, that happens too. That not only do books go underrated or movies go underrated, and I'm sure books do too, that sometimes they just aren't done with very good justice.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for us at Ken's Conversation. And we hope that you enjoy it.
Yeah, we didn't laugh too much, but maybe next time we'll see you. This is Ken.
This is Kenny. See you later.
Bye.